This presentation is designed to provide an explanation of the North Carolina Conservation Partnership, how it continues to evolve over time, how the partnership is interconnected, and the roles and responsibilities of each partner. This schematic of the partnership was dismantled in Module Number 1 and is being rebuilt as a way to achieve a better understanding of its complexity and purpose. As of 1965, we have now rebuilt the Conservation Partnership to the point that you see in this schematic. Districts have organized into associations at the state and national level. The state committee has been renamed the North Carolina Soil and Water Conservation Committee, and the membership of the committee has been totally reconstructed to include 7 members, 6 of whom are recommended for appointment to the governor by virtue of being elected by the association to various positions. Very importantly, the Conservation Partnership now includes staff which is available to assist local districts and provide support to the Soil and Water Conservation Committee. There is a pattern that is developing as we continue to rebuild the Conservation Partnership. Notice how the relationship among the partnership members, shown in the lower right of the schematic, are connected primarily by state statute, and other members are connected by other relationships. As a reminder, also notice that all members of the partnership are connected, one with the other, through the local conservation district that remains the center of the partnership. Module 3 will cover the growth years of the Soil and Water Conservation Partnership, which will include an increase in the district employee numbers, reorganization of state government, and the evolution of SCS to NRCS. During these growth years, we will also see how soil and water conservation grew to a higher level of prominence at the state and local level. A pivotal point in history for the North Carolina Conservation Partnership and the conservation programs administered by local districts began to occur in the 1970s. Up until this time, the federal government had focused its attention on point source pollution as it was easier to identify and determine the source of the pollution. In the 1970s, the federal government, although continuing its emphasis on point source pollution, began to emphasize the need to address non-point source pollution through the U.S. Clean Water Act. This, over time, resulted in major benefits to the program of local soil and water conservation districts, since erosion and runoff from private working lands were considered non-point sources of pollution. This had an enormous impact on states, and they began to reorganize as a result of this new emphasis by the federal government. 1, to get in compliance with new non-point source requirements, and 2, to position themselves to receive federal funding. North Carolina was no different in this regard, and was very aggressive in positioning itself to address non-point source pollution. State government in North Carolina reorganized and added a non-point source pollution section within state government that included soil and water conservation. Another somewhat subtle but very significant change took place when the North Carolina Soil and Water Committee was renamed the Soil and Water Conservation Commission during the Governor Hunt administration. This placed soil and water conservation at the same level of importance with other commissions in the state and was significant in raising the exposure and importance of soil and water conservation at the state and local level. In the late 1970s and into the mid-1980s, North Carolina continued to increase its focus on soil and water conservation. In 1979, soil and water gained more prominence within state government with the creation of the Division of Soil and Water Conservation, and for the first time, soil and water became a standalone division within state government. Equally important, in 1985, the North Carolina legislature authorized the creation of the North Carolina Agricultural Cost Share Program, and responsibility for that program was assigned to the Soil and Water Conservation Commission. This program was a response to concern that non-point source pollution from agricultural land was having on water quality in North Carolina. For the first time, local conservation districts had a cost share program provided by the state through which they could offer financial incentives to landowners to address non-point source pollution. In addition, staff was added to the newly created Division of Soil and Water Conservation to help the Commission fulfill its responsibilities for this new cost share program and to provide program assistance to local conservation districts. In 1994, the federal leg of the Conservation Partnership also experienced change with the renaming of the Soil Conservation Service to the Natural Resources Conservation Service. SCS had been in existence since 1935 and, as its name implies, focused a lot of effort on soil conservation. The renaming of the agency implied emphasis on all natural resources, not just soil, and positioned the agency for new federal Farm Bill programs such as the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, the Wildlife Habitat Incentive Program, the Wetland Reserve Program, and the Farm and Ranch Land Protection Program. These programs greatly increased the capacity of the federal government to join with the state in providing financial incentives to address and treat natural resource concerns. Chronologically, we have now advanced past the 1980s and into the 1990s, and a quick view of the Conservation Partnership seems to suggest only very subtle name changes. We have not added new pieces to the Conservation Partnership puzzle, but we now know that very significant events have occurred, which will position the Conservation Partnership in North Carolina for an even stronger soil and water conservation program. The renaming of SCS, the creation of the Division of Soil and Water Conservation, and the elevation of the North Carolina Soil and Water Conservation Committee to commission status, and therefore its name change to the North Carolina Soil and Water Conservation Commission. The interconnections among the Conservation Partnership have changed, but soil and water in North Carolina is now positioned for even greater effectiveness. Beginning in the 1990s, the Conservation Partnership experienced a tremendous growth in district employees. Not only did the new emphasis on non-point source pollution provide financial resources to help landowners put conservation on the ground, but programs such as the North Carolina Ag Cost Share Program also provided financial assistance to accelerate the availability of technical assistance at the local conservation district level. For the first 50 or so years of the partnership, the Soil Conservation Service provided the majority of technical assistance at the local level to assist the local district and their landowners put conservation on the ground. Because of the financial resources made available through the state and financial commitment by county governments, the number of technical staff provided by districts and counties now outnumber those provided by the federal government through NRCS. With the tremendous growth in the number of district employees, it stands to reason that they would be interested in organizing into a statewide association. In 1990, the North Carolina Conservation District Employees Association was established, creating a very positive addition to the Conservation Partnership. The DEA has been very effective in helping increase the capacity of local conservation districts and their employees. North Carolina has been a leader in the district employee movement and has provided numerous officers to the National Conservation District Employees Association. Up until the 1990s, the relationship between SCS, now NRCS, and conservation districts was somewhat informal, although there were basic memorandums of understanding. In the 1990s, effort was made to more completely describe the relationship between the federal partner, NRCS, and partners at the state and county level as they related to the local conservation district. This initiative was coordinated by the NRCS and resulted in the establishment of the Mutual Cooperative and Operational Agreements, which more completely describe the partnership relationship at the federal, state, and local level, to include county government and the local soil and water conservation districts. These agreements are available in the offices of each of the conservation districts. Chronologically, we are now in the 1990s, and some very important changes have been made to the Conservation Partnership as we continue to rebuild it. The District Employees Association has been added. In addition, counties have been added to reflect the investment that local governments are making to the Soil and Water Conservation Program in North Carolina by providing funds for staff, office space, vehicles and equipment, and general operations. Notice also that the relationship among the partners in the top part of the schematic has changed to reflect the more formal interconnection that came about as a result of the mutual cooperative and operational agreements. Because of the increased prominence of soil and water conservation at the state and local levels, and the continued emphasis on non-point source pollution, the Soil and Water Conservation Program in North Carolina continued to grow as we moved chronologically from the 1990s and into the early years of the new century. Districts began to diversify their programs as they became involved in holding conservation easements, as well as being involved in voluntary agricultural districts and providing representation on local VAD boards. The expansion of many district programs included utilization of the Community Conservation Assistance Program to help solve water quality problems associated with non-agricultural land, and utilization of the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program in efforts to buffer critical water courses. District responsiveness in assisting confined animal operators stay compliant with .0200 state regulations, and the more recent implementations of the drought-focused cost share program demonstrates that districts are can-do organizations that are willing and able to rise to the challenges presented to them. In 1999, the Conservation Partnership continued to expand with the creation of the North Carolina Foundation for Soil and Water Conservation. The foundation is an offshoot of the association and was established for the sole purpose of increasing the capacity of local soil and water conservation districts. Their mission is to seek and acquire outside funding to be made available to local districts and their association for projects such as closure of abandoned lagoons, establishment of outdoor environmental learning centers, supervisor leadership training, treatment of land formerly in tobacco production, and other similar projects. A very strategic move by the association occurred in 2010 with the hiring of its first staff position, the executive director, on September 1. This action will strengthen the programs and prominence of the association and will provide the association with new opportunities to help local districts build their capacity. In 2011, the North Carolina General Assembly transferred the Division of Soil and Water Conservation and the Soil and Water Conservation Commission from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. This transfer did not change the overall mission or authorities of the division, commission, or local conservation districts as contained in General Statutes 139 and 143. The transfer was the result of an overall realignment of state government and many of its departments, centralizing like missions with an effort to improve efficiency in program delivery. As we continue to rebuild the Conservation Partnership, we now have moved forward to 2010 and have added two more pieces to the partnership puzzle: the Foundation for Soil and Water Conservation and the Association Executive Director. Now that we've totally rebuilt the internal conservation partnership, it is time to discuss and include a number of very important external partners who are critical to the strength and success of the Soil and Water Conservation Program in North Carolina. For many years, strong working relationships have existed with the North Carolina Farm Bureau, the North Carolina State Grange, and the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Those relationships continue to strengthen. The Resource Conservation and Development Program has been intertwined with local conservation districts since the first RC&D project was authorized in North Carolina in the 1960s. Tried and true partnerships continue, but new partnerships continue to develop with organizations such as local land trusts, the Conservation Trust for North Carolina, and the Clean Water Management Trust Fund. The growth of new external partnerships and the continued strengthening of partnerships from previous years is a testimony to the ever-increasing strength of the Soil and Water Conservation Program in North Carolina. The timeline has been advanced to the present day, and the Conservation Partnership has been totally reassembled. The conservation movement in North Carolina has a proud and storied past and a bright future. That movement is a tribute to Dr. Hugh Hammond Bennett, but also to the diversity, strength, and yes, even the complexity of the Conservation Partnership in North Carolina. Module 3 covered the growth years for the Conservation Partnership and Soil and Water Program in North Carolina. As we experienced the growth of district employees, the expanded mission of NRCS, and the very important elevation of soil and water to greater prominence at both the state and local level, the stage has now been set for that growth to continue into the future, and all members of the Conservation Partnership continue to work closely in building the strongest partnership possible for North Carolina and its natural resources. Now we have completed Module 3 of 4. For a true partnership to exist, each member of the partnership must bring something of value to the table. Module 4 will quickly look at a snapshot of the primary roles and responsibilities of each member of the internal partnership.